Good evening, dear listeners. Welcome to a serene space where we can gently drift into the world of dreams together. As the day melts away and the tranquility of night embraces us, it's the perfect time to settle in, relax, and let go of any lingering thoughts. Tonight, we invite you to join us on a soothing journey through the often overlooked yet profoundly fascinating subject of Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols. Imagine, if you will, a time when the flickering light of oil lamps illuminated grand halls filled with the whispers of history, where scrolls containing the wisdom and records of an empire were meticulously stored and cared for. The Byzantine Empire, with its rich tapestry of culture, power, and intellectual pursuit, had a unique relationship with its written word. So much more than mere documentation, these scrolls were the lifeblood of governance, communication, and the preservation of knowledge. In the next few moments, we will glide through the intricate processes and meticulous protocols that governed how these precious scrolls were archived. We will explore the methods used to ensure their longevity, from the materials chosen to the precise techniques employed by the dedicated archivists of the time. You will discover how these practices not only reflected the values of the Byzantine Empire but also served as a foundation for future generations of archivists and historians. As we delve into the specifics, we will take our time, allowing each detail to wash over you like a gentle wave. You might find comfort in the rhythm of the words, the soft cadence guiding you deeper into relaxation. We will share stories of the archivists themselves, their dedication to preserving the empire's legacy, and the ways in which they interacted with these scrolls as both caretakers and scholars. Each narrative will be woven together to create a tapestry of understanding, allowing your mind to drift as we explore the history behind these seemingly monotonous yet vital practices. We will also touch upon the materials used in creating these scrolls, the natural fibers that carried the weight of history, and the inks that danced across their surfaces. Picture the soft texture of papyrus and parchment, the delicate strokes of a scribe's hand, all contributing to the enduring legacy of a civilization that thrived for over 1,000 years. As we meander through the annals of time, we will highlight the evolution of storage techniques and the architectural marvels that housed these scrolls. The silence of the libraries, the echo of footsteps against marble halls, and the careful organization of scrolls on shelves will come alive in your imagination, inviting you to visualize these serene spaces. Throughout our journey, we will maintain a soothing atmosphere, encouraging you to close your eyes if you wish, allowing the gentle sound of my voice to be your guide. Each fact, each detail will be like a soft lullaby, guiding you towards a peaceful state of mind. So, dear listeners, as we prepare to embark on this tranquil exploration of Byzantine scroll storage and archiving protocols, allow yourself to fully embrace the calmness of this moment. Let the weight of the day lift from your shoulders, and allow the soothing rhythm of our exploration to cradle you into a restful state. Now, let us transition to the heart of our story, where the past awaits to share its secrets with us. Breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, let go of any distractions. Together, let us uncover the monotonous yet essential history of Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols, a journey that promises to be as enlightening as it is restful. The history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols is a subject often overlooked in the broader context of Byzantine studies. However, it is a topic of considerable significance, as it reflects the administrative and bureaucratic complexities of the Eastern Roman Empire. This account will explore the origins, developments, and daily routines associated with the storage and archiving of scrolls from the foundation of Constantinople in 330 CE to the fall of the Byzantine Empire in 1453 CE. The earliest records concerning the archiving of scrolls in the Byzantine Empire can be traced back to the establishment of Constantinople by Emperor Constantine I in 330 CE. This new capital was designed with a focus on administrative efficiency and cultural prominence. The Great Palace of Constantinople, located on the southeastern edge of the city, served as the central hub for imperial activities, including the storage of official documents and scrolls. The architectural design of the Great Palace featured multiple rooms designated for various administrative purposes, including the storage of scrolls. The palace's archives, known as the Archives of the State, Rho Chi Epsilon Alpha Tau Pi Omicron Lambda Iota Tau Epsilon Alpha, were situated in an inner courtyard, secured by thick stone walls and equipped with wooden doors reinforced with iron. Emperor Justinian I, who reigned from 527 to 565 CE, made significant contributions to the organization of scroll storage and archiving. Under his rule, the Codex Justinianus was compiled, which necessitated a more systematic approach to document management. The administrative procedures instituted during this era included the classification of scrolls into distinct categories: legal texts, imperial edicts, and correspondence. Each category was assigned a specific storage area within the archives, and scrolls were further organized by date and subject matter. The routine for scroll management was regimented and adhered to strict protocols. Daily activities began at dawn, when archivists were expected to arrive at the archives. These individuals, known as archivists, Rho Chi Epsilon Iota Omicron Phi Lambda Alpha Kappa Epsilon, were often chosen from among the educated elite, as literacy was a prerequisite for the position. Upon arrival, archivists would conduct a thorough inspection of the archives to ensure the integrity of the storage area. This involved checking the physical condition of scrolls, ensuring that none had been damaged or rendered illegible due to environmental factors. Once the inspection was completed, archivists would engage in the cataloging process. Each scroll was assigned a unique identifier, which was recorded in a ledger. This ledger, known as the Book of Scrolls, Beta Iota Beta Lambda Omicron Nu Tau Nu Kappa Upsilon Lambda Nu Delta Rho Omega Nu, was meticulously maintained to provide a comprehensive overview of the contents of the archives. The cataloging process included details such as the title of the scroll, the date of creation, the author, and a brief summary of its contents. This practice was essential for facilitating easy retrieval of documents, particularly when legal disputes arose or when imperial decrees needed to be referenced. In addition to routine cataloging, archivists were responsible for the preservation of scrolls. This involved the careful application of oil to the papyrus or parchment surfaces to prevent deterioration. The oils used were derived from local sources, including olive oil, which was abundant in the region. The archivists employed various techniques to ensure the longevity of the scrolls, including storing them in specially designed wooden cases lined with cloth to protect them from dust and moisture. The administrative protocols surrounding scroll storage were further formalized during the reign of Emperor Leo VI, also known as Leo the Wise, who ruled from 886 to 912 CE. Leo VI is notable for the emphasis he placed on legal scholarship and documentation. Under his authority, the archives expanded significantly, necessitating the establishment of additional storage facilities. The construction of the Great Library, mu epsilon gamma lambda eta beta iota beta lambda iota omicron theta kappa eta, adjacent to the Great Palace allowed for the accommodation of an increasing number of scrolls. This library was designed with high ceilings and large windows to promote airflow and prevent humidity, which posed a significant threat to the preservation of scrolls. The administrative structure of the archiving process also evolved during this period. The position of the archivist became more formalized, with specific qualifications required for appointment. Archivists were expected to possess a thorough understanding of the legal system, as many scrolls pertain to legal matters and governance. They were also required to undergo training in proper preservation techniques and the handling of delicate materials. With the expansion of the archives and the increasing complexity of the Byzantine bureaucracy, the role of the archivist became more specialized. By the 10th century, the archivists were supported by a team of clerks, known as assistants, beta omicron eta theta omicron, who assisted in the daily management of scrolls. These assistants were tasked with organizing scrolls for retrieval, preparing documents for imperial review, and conducting preliminary research on scroll contents. The daily routine of archivists and their assistants remained largely unchanged over the centuries. Mornings were dedicated to the inspection and cataloging of new scrolls, while afternoons were reserved for the retrieval of documents requested by imperial officials. Requests for scrolls would be submitted in writing, often accompanied by a seal indicating the authority of the requester. Upon receiving a request, archivists would consult the Book of Scrolls to locate the desired document. The retrieval process involved careful handling, as many scrolls were ancient and vulnerable. By the 12th century, the Byzantine Empire faced numerous challenges, including internal strife and external invasions. Despite these difficulties, the archiving system remained remarkably stable. The establishment of the Imperial Archive, Beta Alpha Sigma Iota Lambda Iota Kappa Rho Chi Epsilon Alpha, in 1185 under Emperor Isaac II Angelos represented a significant attempt to centralize the archiving process. This initiative aimed to consolidate various archival functions under a single administrative body, thereby streamlining the retrieval of imperial documents. The architectural design of the Imperial Archive was characterized by a fortified structure, featuring thick stone walls and narrow windows, which served to protect the valuable scrolls from both theft and environmental damage. The administrative protocols associated with the Imperial Archive were comprehensive. Each document entered into the archive was subjected to rigorous scrutiny, and a formal record was created to document its acceptance into the collection. This record included the date of entry, the identity of the archivist responsible, and a description of the scroll's contents. Additionally, An inventory of the scrolls was conducted on a quarterly basis to ensure accountability and maintain the integrity of the collection. As the Byzantine Empire approached its decline in the 14th and 15th centuries, the emphasis on archiving began to wane. The socio-political turmoil of the period led to inadequate funding for the maintenance of the archives, and the number of trained archivists dwindled. The daily routines of the archivists were disrupted, as many were conscripted for military service or fled the city to escape the encroaching threats from Ottoman forces. Despite these challenges, remnants of the Byzantine archiving system persisted. The archives continued to function, albeit on a reduced scale, and the remaining archivists endeavored to uphold the protocols established by their predecessors. Scrolls remained stored in the Imperial Archive, although the frequency of retrieval diminished significantly. The practice of cataloging was still adhered to, albeit with less rigor, and the Book of Scrolls was maintained, albeit with gaps in documentation. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 CE marked the end of the Byzantine Empire and, consequently, the culmination of its scroll storage and archiving protocols. With the conquest, the Ottoman Empire inherited many aspects of Byzantine administrative practices, including the management of documents. However, the specific protocols and architectural structures associated with Byzantine scroll storage were largely abandoned or repurposed. In conclusion, the history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols reflects a rich tapestry of administrative evolution and cultural continuity over more than a millennium. From the early foundations laid by Emperor Constantine I to the final days of the empire, the methods of scroll storage and archiving adapted to the changing needs of the state. The architectural designs, administrative procedures, and daily routines of archivists reveal a commitment to preserving the written word, despite the many challenges faced by the Byzantine Empire. Through meticulous cataloging and preservation efforts, the archivists played a crucial role in ensuring the continuity of knowledge, even as the empire itself faced decline. Thus, the study of Byzantine scroll storage and archiving protocols, while perhaps monotonous, serves as a testament to the enduring legacy of a civilization that valued the written record of its history. The construction methods and materials employed in the creation of storage facilities for scrolls in the Byzantine Empire were dictated largely by regional availability and the architectural conventions of the time. The primary materials used in the construction of these storage structures included limestone, clay bricks, and wood, with limestone being favored for its durability and fire resistance. The use of limestone was prevalent from the 4th century CE onward, notably in the construction of the imperial archives at Constantinople, which were established as early as the reign of Emperor Constantine I, reigned 306 to 337 CE. The architectural design of these storage facilities often emphasized both security and accessibility. The walls of these archives were typically at least 3 feet thick, constructed to withstand the wear of time and the threat of fires, which were common in densely populated areas. Wooden beams, sourced from local forests, were used to create shelving systems, with shelves measuring approximately 18 inches deep and spaced at intervals of 2 feet to accommodate the scrolls, which averaged around 8 to 10 feet in length. Maintenance of these scroll storage facilities was an ongoing concern, as environmental factors could pose a significant threat to the integrity of the scrolls. Regular inspections, mandated by the imperial edicts, were conducted biannually. These inspections evaluated the structural integrity of the buildings and the condition of the scrolls housed within. The maintenance procedures included the cleaning of dust and debris, which could accumulate from the frequent opening and closing of scrolls, as well as monitoring for signs of mold or pests. A mixture of vinegar and water was commonly used to clean surfaces, as the acetic acid in vinegar has preservative qualities. In terms of financial records and costs associated with the upkeep of these archives, meticulous accounting was crucial. The Department of Imperial Archives, established under Emperor Justinian I, reigned 527 to 565 CE, documented all expenditures related to the construction, maintenance, and staffing of these facilities. A typical annual budget for an archive could range from 50 to 100 solidi, depending on the size of the facility and the number of scrolls stored. This budget covered costs for materials, labor, and the purchase of basic supplies such as cleaning agents and protective wrappings for the scrolls. Personnel involved in the management of Byzantine scroll storage were categorized into specific job roles, each with distinct responsibilities. The chief archivist, known as the logothetes, was the highest-ranking official responsible for overseeing the entire archiving process. This position required a robust understanding of both the material and administrative aspects of scroll management. The logothetes was supported by a team of clerks who were tasked with cataloging each scroll, a process that involved creating detailed records that included the scroll's title, author, and historical significance. In addition to clerical staff, there were also specialized roles such as the custodian of scrolls, who was responsible for the physical handling and maintenance of the scrolls. This role required training in the proper techniques for unrolling and storing scrolls to prevent damage. The custodians typically underwent instruction in safe handling practices as early as the 6th century CE, with formal guidelines established during the reign of Emperor Heraclius, reigned 610 to 641 CE. Technical specifications regarding the storage conditions of the scrolls were strictly adhered to. Ideal storage conditions called for a relative humidity level of approximately 50%, with temperatures maintained between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius. To achieve this, archives were often situated in basements or lower levels of buildings, where temperatures remained relatively stable. Ventilation was also a critical component. Openings were designed to allow airflow while preventing direct exposure to external elements, which could lead to degradation. To further enhance preservation, scrolls were wrapped in cloth made from linen or cotton, materials that were chosen for their breathable qualities. The scrolls, when stored, would be placed horizontally on shelves, with the wrapping providing additional protection against dust and potential water damage. The average lifespan of a scroll in optimal storage conditions was estimated to be around 200 years, although this could vary significantly depending on the material of the scroll itself and the environmental conditions to which it was exposed. The cataloging system employed by the Byzantine archives was both intricate and methodical. Each scroll was assigned a unique identification number, which was recorded in a ledger that detailed the scroll's physical location within the archive. This ledger was updated regularly, particularly after the addition of new scrolls, which would often occur following military campaigns that resulted in the acquisition of new texts. The logs were maintained in a format that provided easy cross-referencing for scholars and government officials seeking access to specific documents. Additionally, the practice of cross-referencing scrolls by their themes or subjects became more common during the 9th century CE, reflecting an increased demand for organized information retrieval. By this time, the Byzantine Empire had developed an extensive body of literature, and the scrolls represented a critical repository of knowledge covering theology, law, philosophy, and history. The procedures for accessing scrolls were also strictly regulated. Requests for specific scrolls had to be submitted in writing to the logothetes, and these requests were logged in a separate register which tracked the movement of scrolls in and out of the archive. Access was generally granted only to individuals of high rank or those who had obtained special permission from the emperor himself. Scholars wishing to study scrolls were often required to be accompanied by a custodian to ensure proper handling. Training programs for new custodians were implemented during the 10th century CE, focusing on preservation techniques, cataloging methods, and the importance of maintaining accurate records. Sessions included practical demonstrations on how to carefully unroll scrolls, inspect them for damage, and rewrap them for storage. These training programs were standardized across the empire, ensuring a consistent approach to scroll management. As the Byzantine Empire approached the 12th century, the archiving practices became increasingly sophisticated, with innovations in storage technology. The introduction of wooden cases known as biblion allowed for more secure storage of particularly valuable or fragile scrolls. These cases were designed to fit standard scroll sizes, which averaged 12 inches in diameter when rolled, and could accommodate scrolls up to 10 feet in length. The biblion cases were often lined with silk or other soft materials to provide cushioning. In conclusion, while the history of Byzantine scroll storage and archiving protocols may appear monotonous at first glance, it reveals a complex system that underscores the civilization's commitment to preserving its literary heritage. The construction methods, maintenance procedures, financial records, personnel roles, and technical specifications all played crucial roles in ensuring the longevity of the scrolls, which served as vessels of knowledge for future generations. This meticulous attention to detail in the management of scrolls highlights the Byzantine Empire's understanding of the importance of documentation and preservation, elements that remain relevant in contemporary archival practices. The Byzantine Empire, renowned for its intricate administrative systems, developed specific construction methods and materials for their scroll storage facilities between the 4th and 15th centuries CE. These structures, known as bibliotheki, were designed with a variety of architectural styles, often employing local resources based on the region's availability. In Constantinople, for example, many scroll storage units were constructed using locally quarried limestone, which provided durability and a certain degree of fire resistance. The limestone blocks used often measured approximately 1 meter in length, 0.5 meters in height, and 0.3 meters in width, lending structural integrity to the edifices. In addition to limestone, wood played a significant role in the construction of internal shelving and cabinets. The wood used was typically oak, chosen for its strength and resistance to warping. The shelves were crafted to hold scrolls horizontally, allowing for easy access and minimizing the risk of damage to the delicate parchment used in scroll production. This shelving often featured a depth of around 30 centimeters to accommodate the average scroll diameter of 10 to 15 centimeters. The roof structures of these storage facilities were engineered with a slight pitch, measuring approximately 10 degrees, to facilitate rain runoff and protect the contents from moisture damage. Furthermore, the walls were often thickened to around 60 centimeters at their base, tapering to about 40 centimeters at the top, which provided both structural support and insulation against temperature fluctuations. Maintenance procedures for scrolls were meticulously outlined in various administrative texts, particularly during the reign of Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 CE. Scrolls were regularly inspected for signs of wear, with checks occurring at least biannually, often coinciding with the changing of seasons. The scrolls were cleaned with a soft cloth, typically made from linen, to remove dust and prevent the buildup of mold. Should a scroll exhibit damage, such as tears or fading ink, it would be sent to a designated scribe for restoration. This process involved the careful application of a solution made from water and a natural binding agent derived from animal gelatin, with specific ratios maintained at 3:1 for optimal effectiveness. Financial records regarding the costs associated with the storage and maintenance of scrolls reveal a complex economic framework. During the 8th century, a typical scroll could cost between 2 to 5 solidi, depending on the material and content. Parchment, made from animal skins, was particularly expensive. A single sheet could require the skins of multiple sheep, leading to a cost of approximately 3 solidi per sheet. In the year 732 CE, it was recorded that the total expenditure on scroll storage facilities in Constantinople amounted to 1,200 solidi, allocated for construction, maintenance, and labor costs. Personnel involved in the management of scroll storage included a variety of roles, each with distinct job descriptions. The chief archivist, known as the archivarius, was responsible for the overall organization of the scrolls, overseeing both the physical storage and the cataloging system. This position typically required at least a decade of experience in bureaucratic roles, with a recommended educational background in theology or law. Supporting the archivarius were the scribi, or scribes, who were charged with the copying and restoration of scrolls. Each scribe was expected to produce at least one complete scroll per month, a task that required exceptional penmanship and knowledge of the Greek and Latin scripts. The scribes were generally confined to a specific area within the bibliotheki, with workstations measuring no more than 1.5 meters by 1 meter, equipped with a writing desk and an inkpot. Additionally, scroll storage facilities employed custodes, or custodians, whose primary responsibility was the physical security of the scrolls. Custodes were required to maintain a vigilant presence during operating hours and to conduct nightly inspections. The custodian's workspace was often located near the entrance of the storage facility, allowing for quick access to respond to any potential threats. Technical specifications for scroll storage emphasized the importance of climate control. By the 10th century, it became common practice to install simple ventilation systems, which involved strategically placed openings in the walls measuring 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, allowing for air circulation while minimizing dust entry. In certain locations, such as the library of the Great Palace of Constantinople, more advanced methods were employed, including the use of clay pots filled with water to create a humid environment, essential for preserving the scroll's parchment. The Byzantine approach to scroll archiving also included the implementation of a cataloging system, which evolved significantly over time. Initially, scrolls were organized based on subject matter, but as the volume of documents increased, a more sophisticated numerical system was introduced by the late 9th century CE. Each scroll was assigned a unique identification number, which was recorded in a ledger measuring approximately 30 centimeters by 40 centimeters, bound in leather and containing around 200 pages. The entries included the title, author, date of creation, and physical condition of the scroll, providing a comprehensive overview of the collection. It is noteworthy that the Byzantine Empire's extensive record-keeping extended beyond mere documentation. It also encompassed detailed inventories of scroll storage facilities. For instance, in a census conducted in 1092 CE, it was reported that the library of the monastery of St. John in Patmos contained over 1,500 scrolls, categorized into theological, historical, and scientific texts. Each scroll was meticulously referenced in a master index, which was updated annually, ensuring that the information remained current and accessible. The financial implications of maintaining such extensive archives were considerable. The costs associated with parchment production, ink, and the labor of skilled scribes represented a significant portion of the Byzantine administrative budget. In the year 1180 CE, it was estimated that the total annual expenditure on scroll-related activities reached approximately 5,000 solidi, necessitating careful allocation of funds sourced from various imperial taxes and donations from wealthy patrons. In terms of technical specifications, the inks employed in the production of scrolls were primarily composed of carbon black mixed with a binding agent, such as gum arabic. The standard ink pot utilized by scribes measured about 8 centimeters in height and 5 centimeters in diameter, allowing for easy transportation between workstations. The average size of a scroll, when unrolled, could extend to 8 meters in length and 30 centimeters in width, allowing ample space for written content. The strict protocols surrounding scroll storage and archiving in the Byzantine Empire underscored a commitment to preserving knowledge and facilitating scholarly pursuits. The rigorous standards established during this period laid the groundwork for modern archival practices, emphasizing the importance of systematic documentation and the careful maintenance of historical records. In conclusion, the Byzantine Empire's approach to scroll storage and archiving was characterized by meticulous planning and execution in construction methods, maintenance procedures, financial management, personnel structuring, and technical specifications. The legacy of these practices continues to influence contemporary archival methods, reflecting the enduring significance of the Byzantine commitment to documentation and preservation. The construction methods and materials employed in the Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols were meticulously planned, reflecting the empire's commitment to durability and organization. The primary materials utilized in the construction of archival facilities included locally sourced timber, clay bricks, and stone. Notably, the use of fired clay bricks became prevalent following the reign of Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 CE, as these bricks offered greater resistance to fire and pests compared to earlier materials. Excavations of archival sites in Constantinople have revealed that the average dimensions of these bricks were approximately 30 cm x 15 cm x 7.5 cm, providing a balance between weight and structural integrity. The construction methods employed in the design of archival repositories adhered to specific architectural principles that prioritized climate control and protection against environmental factors. For example, the design of storage rooms often featured thick walls, measuring up to 1 meter in thickness, which aided in maintaining a stable internal temperature. Additionally, the orientation of storage facilities was typically aligned to minimize direct sunlight exposure, thereby reducing the risk of damage to the scrolls housed within. Maintenance procedures were equally critical to the longevity of the scrolls and the archives themselves. Regular inspections were mandated, with a standardized schedule established during the reign of Emperor Basil II, 976-1025 CE. Inspections occurred biannually, in the spring and fall, and involved a comprehensive assessment of both the structural integrity of the repository and the condition of the scrolls. A team of archivists, led by a designated chief archivist, was responsible for conducting these assessments. The chief archivist was tasked with documenting any signs of deterioration, mold, or insect infestation, employing a set of standardized forms that detailed the specific findings, which were then archived for historical reference. In terms of financial records and costs associated with the maintenance of these archives, records indicate a notable allocation of imperial funds toward the upkeep of archival facilities. During the reign of Emperor Theodosius II, 408 to 450 CE, an annual budget of approximately £150 of gold, equivalent to 4,500 solidi, was earmarked specifically for archival maintenance. This funding covered various expenses, including the procurement of materials for construction, the salary of personnel, and the purchase of specialized tools for scroll maintenance. For instance, archivists were provided with tools such as bone folders, which were essential for the careful handling of delicate scrolls, along with wax tablets for recording observations. The personnel involved in the Byzantine archiving process consisted of a hierarchy of roles, each with specific job descriptions aimed at ensuring the efficient operation of the archival system. The chief archivist, as previously mentioned, acted as the head of the archival team and reported directly to the emperor or a designated high official. This position required a deep understanding of both the content and the physical condition of the scrolls, necessitating extensive training in paleography and conservation techniques. Beneath the chief archivist were several subordinate roles, including junior archivists and scroll conservators. Junior archivists, typically selected from educated classes, were responsible for cataloging new acquisitions and assisting in the maintenance inspections. Their duties required a proficiency in Greek and Latin, as many scrolls were inscribed in these languages. Scroll conservators, on the other hand, were skilled artisans trained in the techniques of repair and restoration. They utilized various methods, such as the application of rice paste for mending tears and the use of silk threads for reinforcing fragile scroll edges. Technical specifications for the preservation of scrolls were rigorously established to ensure consistent practices across the Byzantine Empire. The optimal storage conditions recommended included a relative humidity level of 45% and a temperature range of 18 to 22 degrees Celsius. Scrolls were typically stored in wooden boxes lined with linen, which provided a protective barrier against moisture and pests. Each box was labeled with a unique identifier, and an inventory list was maintained in a central ledger, which facilitated the tracking of scroll locations. In addition to physical storage considerations, the Byzantine archival system also included detailed protocols for the documentation of scroll contents. Each scroll underwent a process of cataloging upon its arrival at the archive, where details such as the title, author, date of composition, and a brief synopsis were recorded. This information was inscribed on a parchment sheet, which was then affixed to the storage box containing the scroll. The importance of documentation extended beyond mere cataloging, as the Byzantine Empire placed significant emphasis on the intellectual history preserved within these scrolls. Consequently, a specialized role known as the historian of archives was established. This position entailed the responsibility of compiling historical narratives based on the contents of archived scrolls, thereby weaving together the empire's collective memory. The historian would produce annual reports summarizing the findings from the archives, which were then disseminated among the imperial court and other scholarly institutions. Financial oversight of the archival system also included careful monitoring of expenditures related to scroll production. In the early 6th century, for instance, Emperor Justinian I enacted a policy regulating the costs associated with the creation of new scrolls, particularly those commissioned for state use. A standard rate of 10 solidi per scroll was established for high-quality manuscripts, which included costs for skilled scribes, materials, and binding. This regulation aimed to standardize the quality of scrolls produced for the imperial library while preventing inflationary pressures from impacting the market. The meticulous nature of Byzantine scroll storage and archiving protocols extended into the realm of security. Records indicate that archival facilities were equipped with lockable doors and, in some cases, barred windows to deter unauthorized access. Guards were stationed at key points to monitor the premises, and a protocol for entry was established. Anyone wishing to access the archives had to present a formal request, which would be reviewed by the chief archivist before permission was granted. This rigorous approach to security underscored the value placed on the scrolls as repositories of knowledge and power. As the Byzantine Empire evolved, so too did its archiving practices. The influence of external factors, such as invasions and political turmoil, prompted adaptations in storage methods. For example, during the iconoclastic controversy of the 8th century, there was an increased emphasis on the preservation of religious texts. This shift led to the establishment of specialized repositories exclusively dedicated to ecclesiastical documents, further diversifying the archival landscape. In conclusion, the Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols were characterized by their detailed construction methods, stringent maintenance procedures, and well-defined personnel roles. The financial implications of maintaining these archives were carefully managed, reflecting the empire's commitment to preserving its intellectual heritage. Technical specifications ensured that scrolls were stored under optimal conditions, while documentation practices guaranteed that their contents were accessible for future generations. The legacy of these practices continues to resonate within contemporary archival methodologies, affirming the enduring importance of the Byzantine Empire's contributions to the field of documentation and preservation. The construction methods and materials employed in Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols underwent a gradual evolution from the establishment of the Byzantine Empire in the 4th century CE to its eventual decline in the 15th century CE. Initially, scroll storage facilities were constructed using locally sourced materials such as timber, clay, and stone. The earliest documented scroll repositories, established in Constantinople during the reign of Emperor Constantine I, reigned 306 to 337 CE, primarily utilized timber due to its availability and ease of manipulation. These wooden structures were often lined with clay to provide a modicum of humidity control, which was essential for the preservation of papyrus and parchment scrolls. By the 6th century CE, the construction of scroll storage facilities had begun to incorporate more durable materials, reflecting both advancements in architectural techniques and the increasing importance of written documentation in administrative and religious contexts. Notably, the use of fired brick became commonplace, as evidenced by the architectural remains of the Great Palace of Constantinople, built during the reign of Emperor Justinian I, reigned 527 to 565 CE. These structures featured thick walls, approximately 1.2 meters in width, designed to insulate against temperature fluctuations and moisture. Roofs were traditionally constructed with wooden beams, though some facilities employed vaulted roofs made of brick to enhance durability. Maintenance procedures for scroll storage facilities were meticulously documented in various administrative texts, including the Eparchial Edict of 800 CE. The edict outlined a series of protocols for the upkeep of these repositories, emphasizing the necessity of regular inspections and cleaning to prevent deterioration from dust and pests. It mandated that scroll storage areas be swept daily, utilizing tools made from locally sourced materials, such as straw brooms. Furthermore, every quarter, the facilities underwent thorough inspections, wherein the scrolls were examined for signs of mold or insect infestation. Any scrolls found to be in a state of disrepair were to be recorded in an official ledger for further evaluation and potential restoration. The financial records pertaining to the construction and maintenance of scroll storage facilities demonstrate the significant investments made by the Byzantine state in preserving its documentary heritage. According to the Book of the Treasury, from the 9th century CE, the initial costs for constructing a standard scroll repository could range from 500 to 1,000 solidi, depending on the chosen materials and labor costs. This amount represented a substantial portion of the provincial budget, leading to the establishment of a dedicated line item for archival construction in annual fiscal reports. In the realm of personnel, scroll storage facilities required a diverse array of staff, each with specific responsibilities delineated in administrative documents. The chief archivist, known as the cartophylax, held ultimate responsibility for the organization and preservation of scrolls. This position was typically filled by individuals with extensive knowledge of both literature and administrative practices, often requiring a minimum of a decade of experience in related fields. The cartophylax was also responsible for training subordinate staff, which included hypomnema, the clerks tasked with cataloging scrolls and maintaining records of their condition. These clerks were often trained in calligraphy, ensuring that any notes or annotations made were both legible and aesthetically pleasing. Additionally, a cadre of scribes was employed to produce copies of important documents, ensuring that multiple versions were available for reference. Scribes were expected to possess a high level of skill in the art of writing and were often trained from a young age in monastic schools. Their proficiency in various scripts, including uncial and minuscule, allowed for versatility in documentation practices. The daily duties of these personnel included drafting new scrolls, repairing damaged ones, and meticulously cataloging each scroll according to a standardized classification system that included subject matter, date of creation, and author. Technical specifications for the construction of scroll storage facilities were rigorously governed by established architectural principles, reflecting both functionality and aesthetic considerations. The standard dimensions for a scroll repository typically measured 15 meters in length, 10 meters in width, and 4 meters in height. This spatial organization allowed for the installation of multiple shelving units, each capable of holding approximately 200 scrolls. The shelving itself was constructed from treated wood, designed to minimize the risk of warping and to provide a stable environment for the scrolls. Ventilation was another critical aspect of the technical specifications, as it played a vital role in preventing moisture buildup. The design of scroll storage facilities included strategically placed windows, often measuring 0.5 meters by 1 meter, which allowed for natural light while ensuring that scrolls were not directly exposed to sunlight. Additionally, small vents were incorporated into the architecture, allowing for airflow without compromising the security of the scrolls. These vents were typically covered with mesh to deter pests and were regularly inspected as part of the maintenance protocols. The introduction of climate control techniques in the 12th century CE marked a significant advancement in the preservation of scrolls. The use of water channels, dug 0.3 meters deep around the perimeter of the storage facility, facilitated passive cooling during the hot summer months. A series of clay pots filled with water were placed strategically throughout the interior, allowing for evaporative cooling. This method of climate control was noted in the writings of the Byzantine scholar Michael Psellus in the 11th century CE, who praised the effectiveness of such techniques in maintaining scroll integrity. In terms of financial records and costs, the Byzantine state maintained detailed accounts of expenditures related to scroll storage. The fiscal register of the empire, from the 12th century CE, lists an annual budget of approximately 3,000 solidi allocated specifically for archival purposes. This budget was divided between construction, maintenance, and personnel salaries. The cost of hiring skilled labor, such as masons and carpenters, was typically around 2 solidi per day, while clerical staff received a modest wage of 1 solidus per day. This financial structure highlights the Byzantine Empire's commitment to preserving its documentary heritage, despite the economic pressures it faced during various military campaigns. The integration of new technologies, such as the introduction of the printing press in the late 15th century, began to alter the landscape of archival practices. However, the Byzantine Empire's foundational principles for scroll storage remained influential, underscoring the significance of systematic organization, environmental control, and skilled personnel in the preservation of written records. The enduring nature of these practices can be seen in modern archival methodologies, where the legacy of Byzantine scroll storage continues to inform contemporary approaches to documentation and preservation. In summary, the construction methods and materials, maintenance procedures, financial records and costs, personnel and job descriptions, and technical specifications associated with Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols reveal a complex and well-organized system. This system, established through centuries of practice and refinement, laid the groundwork for the preservation of written knowledge that would influence future generations and archiving practices. The meticulous attention to detail and the emphasis on sustainability in both construction and maintenance attest to the Byzantine Empire's recognition of the importance of documentation, a value that persists in modern archival practices today. The Monotonous History of Byzantine Imperial Scroll Storage and Archiving Protocols, Part 6. Regional Variations and Comparisons. The Byzantine Empire, a sprawling entity that encompassed diverse regions and cultures, exhibited significant regional variations in its approach to scroll storage and archiving protocols. These differences were often a reflection of local customs, administrative needs, and the availability of resources. For instance, in Constantinople, the heart of the empire, scroll storage was characterized by a centralized and highly organized system. The Great Palace of Constantinople, the imperial residence, housed an extensive archive known as the Biblion, where scrolls were meticulously catalogued and preserved. In contrast, provinces such as Anatolia and Thessalonica, which were more remote from the imperial capital, exhibited a more decentralized approach. Local governors, or strategoi, were tasked with the archiving of imperial edicts and local documents, leading to variations in document formats and storage practices. In the southern regions of the empire, such as Cyprus and parts of Syria, the influence of Hellenistic traditions resulted in an emphasis on papyrus scrolls, often stored in cylindrical containers made from wood or clay. This practice diverged significantly from the more common use of parchment in the northern territories, where the colder climate favored the durability and longevity of animal skin scrolls. As such, the material composition of archives across regions not only reflected local availability but also the prevailing environmental conditions that influenced the choice of writing surfaces. Comparatively, the archiving practices of the Western provinces, particularly those influenced by the remnants of Roman administrative systems, often exhibited a more fragmented structure. Cities such as Ravenna and Milan, while strategically important, were less integrated into the imperial bureaucratic framework, resulting in a more ad hoc approach to scroll management. The use of wax tablets for temporary records was prevalent in these regions, which, although practical, necessitated a more labor-intensive process for record-keeping compared to the durability of scrolls. Evolution over different time periods. The evolution of Byzantine scroll storage protocols can be traced across several distinct phases, each marked by socio-political changes and technological advancements. During the early Byzantine period, approximately 330 to 600 AD, the archiving systems were deeply rooted in Roman traditions. The early emperors prioritized the preservation of imperial edicts, military records, and religious documents, often stored in wooden chests or within the sacred confines of churches. The ecclesiastical influence on record-keeping cannot be overstated, as monasteries became key hubs for the preservation of texts. As the empire transitioned into the Middle Byzantine period, 600–1204 AD, the rise of bureaucracy necessitated a more systematic approach to scroll management. The establishment of the logothete, a high-ranking official responsible for the management of records, introduced greater standardization and regulation. This period saw the introduction of more refined cataloging methods, including the use of indices and cross-referencing, which allowed for quicker retrieval of documents. The development of the ktenos, a form of administrative ledger, further streamlined the archiving process, allowing for a more organized approach to fiscal records, land ownership, and tribute collection. The late Byzantine period, 1204 to 1453 AD, was marked by increasing instability due to foreign invasions and internal strife. This turmoil necessitated an emphasis on the preservation of legal documents and land charters, as property disputes became more common. The bureaucratic regulations governing scroll storage became more stringent, with specific protocols established for the handling of sensitive documents. The introduction of ink made from carbon black, a significant advancement over previous inks, allowed for greater legibility and durability of scrolls. This period also witnessed the emergence of the chancery, which became the central authority for managing all official documents, further solidifying the administrative framework surrounding scroll archiving. Bureaucratic regulations and laws. The Byzantine Empire was characterized by an intricate tapestry of bureaucratic regulations that governed scroll storage and archiving. The Ekliga, a legal code promulgated in the 8th century, provided the foundation for many of these regulations, establishing guidelines for the management of public records. Notably, the Ekliga mandated that all administrative offices maintain a registry of incoming and outgoing documents, which facilitated accountability and transparency within the bureaucratic apparatus. In addition to the Ekliga, the Basilica, a comprehensive legal code compiled under the patronage of Emperor Basil I in the 9th century, further refined the legal framework surrounding archiving practices. This monumental work codified the responsibilities of various officials regarding the preservation of scrolls and established penalties for negligence. For instance, a logothete who failed to properly archive an important edict could face severe repercussions, including removal from office or, in extreme cases, exile. The Byzantine legal system also recognized the importance of preserving ecclesiastical documents. The nomos, or ecclesiastical law, stipulated that church records should be maintained separately from secular documents, ensuring the sanctity of religious texts. This separation was of paramount importance, particularly during periods of theological disputes, as it allowed for the secure retention of doctrinal records and church decrees. Furthermore, specific regulations were established concerning the storage environment of scrolls. The use of humidity-controlled storage rooms was mandated to prevent the deterioration of scrolls, particularly parchment, which was susceptible to mold and decay. Additionally, the practice of employing guards to oversee archival facilities became common, especially during times of unrest, to safeguard against looting or destruction. Supply chain and logistics. The logistical challenges associated with scroll storage and archiving in the Byzantine Empire were multifaceted, encompassing the entire supply chain from the procurement of materials to the final storage of completed scrolls. The production of scrolls necessitated a complex network of suppliers, including parchment manufacturers, scribes, and binders. The sourcing of high-quality parchment was particularly crucial, as inferior materials could significantly shorten the lifespan of scrolls. Parchment, derived from the skins of animals such as sheep and goats, required a meticulous process of preparation. Tanners and parchment makers operated within specific regions, where local resources dictated the quality of the final product. The transport of parchment to urban centers for scribing was often fraught with difficulties, roads were poorly maintained, and travel was hindered by seasonal weather conditions. As such, the establishment of a reliable supply chain was essential for ensuring that scroll production remained uninterrupted. Once scrolls were completed, the logistics of storage became paramount. The Byzantine Empire employed a variety of storage facilities, ranging from small local archives to vast imperial repositories. Scrolls were often rolled and stored in wooden boxes, which were then arranged in a systematic manner to facilitate easy access. The organization of these storage facilities was typically overseen by appointed archivists who were responsible for cataloging and maintaining the integrity of the documents. The transport of scrolls for administrative purposes also posed logistical challenges. As imperial edicts and legal documents often required dissemination across the empire, couriers were integral to the process. The couriers, known as dromoi, were trained in the art of swift travel, traversing the empire on foot or horseback to deliver important scrolls. The establishment of relay stations, equipped with fresh horses, became a vital part of the logistics network, enabling the rapid exchange of information between distant provinces and the imperial capital. Record-keeping methods. The methods employed for record-keeping in the Byzantine Empire were as diverse as the scrolls themselves. The practices evolved over time, influenced by technological advancements, administrative needs, and the cultural milieu. In the early Byzantine period, records were primarily maintained on papyrus and parchment scrolls, with scribes utilizing various writing instruments, including reed pens and quills, dipped in ink made from natural dyes. The legibility of these records was of utmost importance, as they served as the legal basis for property rights, governmental decrees, and ecclesiastical matters. The introduction of more sophisticated writing techniques, such as the use of abbreviations and shorthand, facilitated the efficient recording of lengthy texts. Scribes were trained in these methods, which allowed them to produce documents quickly, although the trade-off was often a decline in legibility. The use of wax tablets for temporary record-keeping remained prevalent, particularly in the provinces, where the need for immediate and ephemeral records demanded a less formal approach. As the bureaucratic apparatus expanded, so too did the complexity of record-keeping methods. The integration of indices and cross-referencing systems became standard practice, allowing officials to navigate vast archives with greater ease. The introduction of formalized ledgers, known as logoi, played a pivotal role in tracking financial transactions, land grants, and military records, further enhancing the efficiency of the administrative system. In addition to these methods, the cultural importance of scrolls was reflected in the practice of illumination. While primarily decorative, illuminated scrolls also served a functional purpose by enhancing the visibility of important passages and aiding in the retrieval of specific information. The laborious process of illumination required skilled artisans, whose work contributed to the aesthetic appeal of scrolls while simultaneously reinforcing the value placed on these documents. Conclusion. The Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols, while seemingly mundane, reveal a complex and nuanced system shaped by regional variations, evolving practices, stringent regulations, logistical challenges, and diverse record-keeping methods. This intricate tapestry of bureaucratic procedure and cultural significance underscores the vital role that scrolls played in the functioning of the Byzantine Empire. As we continue to explore this seemingly tedious history, we uncover not only the minutiae of archival practices but also the broader implications of how societies organize, preserve, and disseminate knowledge through the written word. The Monotonous History of Byzantine Imperial Scroll Storage and Archiving Protocols, Part 7. Regional Variations and Comparisons. The Byzantine Empire, spanning across diverse geographic landscapes, exhibited notable regional variations in scroll storage and archiving protocols. These variations were influenced by climatic conditions, local governance structures, and cultural practices, thereby leading to disparate methodologies that, while rooted in a common imperial ethos, diverged significantly in execution and form. In the more temperate regions of the empire, such as Thrace and Macedonia, scroll storage protocols were typically characterized by the use of wooden cabinets constructed with local timber. The choice of materials was not arbitrary. The humidity levels prevalent in these regions necessitated the use of wood that could withstand the moisture without warping. In contrast, in the arid climates of Egypt, where papyrus was the predominant medium for scrolls, storage practices emphasized the use of clay jars, often sealed with wax, to protect the scrolls from dust and pests. The juxtaposition of these materials highlights the adaptive ingenuity of the Byzantine archivists who had to navigate the environmental challenges posed by their respective regions. Moreover, administrative centers such as Constantinople developed distinct practices due to their status as the imperial capital. Here, the storage facilities often included elaborate vaults designed to protect scrolls from both environmental factors and potential theft. The vaults employed a double-door mechanism, with the inner door often reinforced with iron, a feature that was less common in provincial repositories where security concerns were less pronounced. The centralization of power in Constantinople allowed for a more standardized yet elaborate system of scroll management, which stood in stark contrast to the more ad hoc arrangements found in the peripheries of the empire, where regional governors might repurpose existing structures for storage without the benefit of imperial oversight. Evolution over different time periods. The history of Byzantine scroll storage is not static, rather, it is a narrative marked by continuous evolution and adaptation. During the early Byzantine period, 4th to 6th centuries, scrolls were primarily stored in public archives, which were often located in basilicas or civic buildings. The practice of scroll storage was heavily influenced by Roman precedents, which established a foundation upon which Byzantine methods would build. The early scrolls were often housed in simple wooden chests, with rudimentary labeling methods that relied primarily on external indications of content, such as the title inscribed on the exterior. As the empire transitioned through the Middle Byzantine period, 7th to 12th centuries, the complexities of governance and the burgeoning bureaucratic apparatus necessitated more sophisticated archiving practices. The introduction of parchment as a medium for scrolls allowed for greater longevity and durability, and this led to a refinement in storage protocols. The material shift also prompted archivists to develop more nuanced cataloging systems, where scrolls were not only labeled but also systematically organized according to content, date, and author. By the late Byzantine period, 13th to 15th centuries, the rise of the Komnenian dynasty brought about significant changes in the bureaucratic landscape and, consequently, the storage practices of scrolls. The establishment of specialized offices, such as the logothetes, which managed state documents, necessitated a formalization of archiving protocols. During this era, scroll storage facilities became increasingly ornate, often adorned with frescoes depicting historical events or figures relevant to the imperial narrative. Furthermore, the introduction of the paper medium, derived from the Islamic world, began to influence Byzantine practices, leading to a gradual phasing out of the scroll format in favor of codices. Bureaucratic regulations and laws. The Byzantine state was characterized by a complex bureaucratic framework, which dictated not only the administration of the empire but also the minutiae of scroll storage and archiving. The Codex Justinianus, compiled in the 6th century, laid down fundamental principles governing the management of state documents. This codex mandated that all official documents be recorded and preserved in a manner that ensured their authenticity and accessibility. In accordance with these regulations, scrolls were to be stored in designated archives that adhered to specific guidelines concerning temperature and humidity control. The Byzantine emperors, recognizing the importance of these regulations, would periodically issue edicts reinforcing the necessity of maintaining the integrity of state documents. One such edict, known as the Decree of the Archives, issued in 855 AD, established penalties for officials who failed to properly document and store scrolls, emphasizing the state's vested interest in preserving its historical records. The bureaucratic apparatus also established protocols for the transfer of scrolls between offices. The cartophylax, an official charged with the custodianship of the archives, was responsible for maintaining detailed records of all scrolls entering and leaving the archive. This meticulous record-keeping was essential for preventing loss or misplacement of documents, which could have dire consequences in a society where written records were paramount to governance. Supply chain and logistics. The logistics of scroll storage and archiving in the Byzantine Empire were intricate and oftentimes convoluted, involving a supply chain that extended far beyond mere physical storage. The procurement of materials, such as papyrus, parchment, and ink, was closely tied to trade networks that traversed the Mediterranean. The reliance on imported materials, particularly papyrus from Egypt, created a dependency that required careful management to ensure a steady supply for the burgeoning bureaucratic needs. Regional workshops specializing in the production of scrolls emerged as crucial nodes in this supply chain. These workshops were often located near major urban centers, allowing for efficient distribution to various administrative offices. The role of merchants in this supply chain cannot be overstated. Their ability to transport materials and finished scrolls across vast distances facilitated the maintenance of the empire's archival needs. In addition to material logistics, the transportation of scrolls between different administrative centers presented its own set of challenges. Couriers, often selected for their reliability and speed, would carry scrolls across regions, sometimes risking their safety to ensure the timely delivery of crucial documents. The Byzantine state even established a network of way stations equipped with provisions for these couriers, illustrating the lengths to which the bureaucracy would go to maintain an efficient logistical operation. Record-keeping methods. The meticulousness of record-keeping methods in Byzantine imperial scroll storage cannot be overstated. The archivists of this era employed a range of techniques that were as much an art as they were a science. The practice of paragraph, the use of marks or symbols to indicate the beginning of new sections within scrolls, was developed to aid in navigation through lengthy documents. This technique, while seemingly mundane, exemplified the archivist's dedication to enhancing the usability of scrolls. Moreover, the introduction of tables of contents became a hallmark of Byzantine scroll organization. Archivists would compile summaries of scroll contents, often affixing these summaries to the exterior of the scroll, thereby facilitating quicker access for officials needing to reference specific documents. The use of wax tablets for temporary notes or annotations further showcased the ingenuity of Byzantine record-keeping methods, allowing for dynamic interaction with the scrolls themselves. As the empire evolved, so too did the methods of cataloging and indexing. The transition from purely physical storage to the conceptual framework of archiving saw the emergence of more sophisticated systems, including the development of indexes that categorized scrolls by author, subject matter, and even historical significance. The meticulous nature of these records served not only as a tool for governance but also as a means of preserving the cultural and intellectual heritage of the empire. In conclusion, the Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols were characterized by regional variations, evolving practices over time, and a complex bureaucratic framework that dictated every aspect of their management. The intricate supply chain and logistical considerations, coupled with the meticulous record-keeping methods employed by archivists, underscore the significance of scrolls as repositories of knowledge and power in a civilization that thrived on the written word. As we continue to delve into this seemingly monotonous yet profoundly intricate history, we uncover layers of detail that speak to the broader narrative of Byzantine governance and societal organization, offering an illuminating glimpse into a world where the management of scrolls was synonymous with the management of the empire itself. ###The monotonous history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols, continuing the tedious account. ###Part 8, Regional Variations and Comparisons. In the vast expanse of the Byzantine Empire, which at its zenith spanned 3 continents, the methods of scroll storage and archiving were not uniform. Regional variations arose due to local customs, geographic constraints, and the varying levels of administrative sophistication. For instance, in the eastern provinces, such as Asia Minor and Syria, the archiving practices were heavily influenced by the proximity to the Hellenistic traditions that preceded them. These regions favored the use of cylindrical tubes fashioned from papyrus or parchment for the storage of scrolls. The cylindrical design allowed for a compact storage method, protecting the scrolls from dust and environmental degradation, a consideration that was paramount given the arid conditions prevalent in many areas. In contrast, the western provinces, such as Italy and the Balkans, exhibited a preference for flat, wooden storage boxes known as clodhos. These boxes were often lined with felt or cloth to prevent the scrolls from becoming damaged through friction. The choice of storage method not only reflected regional climatic conditions but also the cultural significance placed on the written word in different localities. The Italians, for instance, with their burgeoning Renaissance spirit, began to incorporate more elaborate artistic designs into their storage solutions, a stark departure from the utilitarian designs favored elsewhere. Comparing the archiving practices of Constantinople to those in the provinces reveals stark contrasts. The capital boasted a more centralized bureaucracy, and thus, the protocols for archiving were more regimented. This included the establishment of the Bibliotheca Imperii, an official state repository that adhered to strict regulations regarding scroll storage. In contrast, provincial archives were often less formalized, relying on local magistrates to enforce varying degrees of archival discipline. Part 9, Evolution over different time periods. The evolution of scroll storage and archiving protocols in the Byzantine Empire can be segmented into distinct periods, each characterized by shifts in administrative priorities, technological advancements, and cultural influences. In the early Byzantine period, approximately 330 to 600 AD, following the establishment of Constantinople as the new imperial capital, the focus was primarily on the consolidation of previously scattered archives. This era saw the introduction of systematic cataloging methods, albeit rudimentary by modern standards. Scrolls were categorized by type, legal, theological, and historical, among others, and stored in designated areas within the imperial library. It is noteworthy that during this period, there was a burgeoning interest in the preservation of texts from classical antiquity, leading to a more deliberate approach to archiving. As the empire transitioned into the Middle Byzantine period, 600 to 1204 AD, the introduction of more durable materials such as codex form, which allowed for easier access and handling, marked a significant evolution in storage practices. The codex, which consisted of folded sheets bound together, became increasingly popular, leading to a gradual decline in the use of scrolls. Consequently, archival protocols began to adapt. The emphasis shifted from preservation of scrolls to the organization of codices, resulting in new cataloging systems that reflected these changes. The late Byzantine period, 1204 to 1453 AD, was characterized by external pressures, including invasions and internal strife, which profoundly impacted archival practices. The sacking of Constantinople during the Fourth Crusade led to widespread destruction of documents and scrolls, prompting a re-evaluation of storage methods. In an effort to safeguard their remaining texts, archivists began to employ more secure storage solutions, often utilizing fortified rooms within the imperial palaces and churches. This era also witnessed the integration of Byzantine archives with the burgeoning humanist movement, leading to an increased focus on the accessibility of texts for scholarly purposes. #######Part 10 Bureaucratic Regulations and Laws. The Byzantine Empire was renowned for its intricate bureaucracy, and this was no less true for the protocols governing scroll storage and archiving. Over time, a series of regulations and laws emerged that delineated the responsibilities of officials in charge of archiving. The Ecloga, a legal code issued by Emperor Leo III in the 8th century, included stipulations regarding the management of public records. It mandated that all imperial decrees and legal documents be meticulously recorded and preserved, establishing a legal precedent for the safeguarding of the written word. Furthermore, the Book of the Ceremonies, compiled in the 10th century, provided detailed descriptions of the protocols surrounding the archiving of official documents. This text outlined the processes for receiving, cataloging, and storing scrolls, emphasizing the importance of maintaining an accurate record of state affairs. The bureaucratic framework surrounding scroll storage was not merely administrative, it was imbued with the notion of legitimacy and continuity of the imperial authority. In addition to these overarching regulations, specific laws were enacted to address concerns about the integrity of the archives. For example, measures were taken to prevent unauthorized access to sensitive documents. This included the appointment of hyponema, or archivists, who were charged with monitoring access to the archives and ensuring compliance with established protocols. The need for security in the archiving process was underscored by the fact that many scrolls contained sensitive information about state secrets or the imperial family, necessitating stringent rules regarding their handling. #####Part 11 Supply Chain and Logistics. The logistics of scroll storage and archiving within the Byzantine Empire were intricately linked to the broader supply chain that supported the production and distribution of writing materials. The primary materials used in scroll creation were papyrus and parchment, both of which required extensive supply networks. Papyrus, primarily sourced from the Nile Delta, was subject to the vicissitudes of trade routes and the political stability of the regions it passed through. The procurement of high-quality papyrus was a matter of considerable importance, as it directly impacted the quality of the scrolls produced. Once procured, materials had to be transported to various provincial centers, where local scribes and archivists would create and maintain their records. The movement of these materials was often subject to the whims of the Byzantine bureaucracy. Tariffs and taxes were levied on writing materials, which in turn affected their availability. This bureaucratic oversight could lead to delays in the production of scrolls, ultimately impacting the archiving processes. Moreover, the logistics extended beyond mere transportation. The storage of scrolls also required appropriate environmental conditions to prevent deterioration. Archivists were often tasked with overseeing the climate of storage areas, ensuring that humidity levels remained stable and that scrolls were kept away from direct sunlight. Such meticulous attention to the environmental factors surrounding scroll storage illustrates the complexities involved in the Byzantine archiving practices. Part 12 Record-keeping methods. Record-keeping in the Byzantine Empire was a multifaceted endeavor, deeply intertwined with the societal and bureaucratic fabric of the time. Various methods were employed to ensure that scrolls were accurately recorded and preserved. The most prevalent method was the use of hypomnema, or notes, which served as a preliminary form of record-keeping. These notes were often inscribed on wax tablets, allowing for temporary records that could be revised as necessary before being committed to more permanent scrolls. In addition to hypomnema, archivists utilized intricate cataloging systems to facilitate the organization of scrolls. A common practice involved the creation of indices, or lists, which categorized scrolls based on their content, date, and author. This practice not only streamlined access to records but also ensured that the archival process adhered to the bureaucratic regulations in place. Another critical aspect of record-keeping was the practice of liturgical transcription, whereby important religious texts were copied and preserved for ecclesiastical use. This process was often undertaken in monasteries, where scribes dedicated their efforts to the meticulous reproduction of texts, ensuring that they were accurately maintained for future generations. The religious significance of these texts lent an additional layer of importance to the record-keeping methods employed. The Byzantine approach to scroll storage and archiving ultimately reflected a broader cultural appreciation for the written word. The protocols established during this period not only served practical purposes but also underscored the empire's commitment to the preservation of knowledge and history. Through regional variations, bureaucratic regulations, logistical considerations, and record-keeping methods, the Byzantine Empire crafted a complex and nuanced system for the storage and archiving of scrolls that has, regrettably, faded into the annals of history. Conclusion. In conclusion, the Byzantine approach to scroll storage and archiving protocols was a reflection of the empire's vast administrative complexity, cultural diversity, and historical significance. From regional variations in storage methods to the evolution of practices over centuries, it becomes evident that the mundane aspects of record-keeping were imbued with profound implications for the continuity of knowledge and governance. As we delve deeper into the tedious history of these protocols, we uncover a world where the preservation of the written word was not merely a bureaucratic endeavor but a testament to the resilience of an empire that valued its history and legacy. The Monotonous History of Byzantine Imperial Scroll Storage and Archiving Protocols. Part 9, Regional Variations and Comparisons. In examining the Byzantine Imperial Scroll Storage and Archiving Protocols, one must recognize the considerable regional variations that emerged throughout the vast expanse of the Byzantine Empire. These differences were not merely incidental but were deeply rooted in the local customs, climatic conditions, the availability of materials, and the bureaucratic demands specific to each region. For instance, in the eastern regions of the empire, particularly in Anatolia, scroll storage was often characterized by a more rigid approach due to the heightened bureaucratic complexities associated with the administration of the wealthy provinces. The Anatolian provinces, being fertile and populous, necessitated a more systematic archiving method that could accommodate a plethora of documents ranging from agricultural records to military dispatches. In contrast, in the more sparsely populated regions such as the Balkans, the protocols for archiving were less formalized. The local administrative bodies, often operating with fewer resources, adopted a more ad hoc approach to scroll storage, relying on simple wooden chests that could be locked and stored in a secure location, often a church or a local magistrate's residence. Moreover, the climatic conditions of different regions significantly influenced the materials used for scroll construction and, consequently, their storage methods. In the humid coastal areas of the Aegean Sea, for example, scrolls made from papyrus were more susceptible to decay and mold. As a result, archivists in these regions took extensive measures to ensure that scrolls were kept in well-ventilated spaces, often utilizing wooden cabinets lined with aromatic resin to deter pests and moisture. Conversely, in the drier climates of the eastern provinces, parchment scrolls were preferred, which, while more durable, required careful handling to avoid cracking and creasing. Part 10: Evolution over different time periods. The evolution of Byzantine scroll storage practices is a fascinating study in the interplay between tradition and innovation. Initially, during the early Byzantine period, scrolls were primarily stored in open-air archives, often located near the centers of administration. This practice, however, proved inefficient as the volume of documentation increased, particularly during the reign of Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 AD, when bureaucratic expansion necessitated a more structured approach to record-keeping. By the middle of the 6th century, the establishment of formal libraries and archives marked a significant turning point in the organization of scroll storage. The most notable example of such an institution was the Great Library of Constantinople, which served not only as a depository for imperial documents but also as a center for scholarly activity. This shift toward centralized storage led to the development of systematic cataloging practices, which included the use of detailed inventories and classification systems based on subject matter and administrative function. Throughout the subsequent centuries, particularly during the Macedonian Renaissance, 9th to 11th centuries, there was a renewed emphasis on the preservation of literary and historical texts. This period saw the introduction of more sophisticated storage solutions, including the use of multi-tiered shelving units that allowed for better organization and accessibility. The innovations of this era also included the development of protective coverings for scrolls, such as protective tubes made from leather or wood, which were designed to shield delicate documents from environmental damage. Part 11: Bureaucratic Regulations and Laws. The Byzantine Empire was characterized by an intricate web of bureaucratic regulations governing virtually every aspect of administration, including the storage and archiving of scrolls. These regulations were codified in various legal texts, the most significant of which was the Corpus Juris Civilis, compiled under Justinian I. This monumental work not only codified existing laws but also established protocols for the management of state documents. One notable regulation mandated that all imperial edicts and decrees be recorded in duplicate. One copy was to be stored in the Central Archive of Constantinople, while the other was to be distributed to the relevant provincial governor. This practice ensured that there was a reliable record of all governmental actions, reflecting the Byzantine emphasis on accountability and transparency. In addition to imperial edicts, there were specific laws aimed at safeguarding the integrity of the scrolls themselves. For instance, under the Ecloga, a legal code promulgated during the reign of Emperor Leo III, 717 to 741, it was stipulated that all public records must be protected from unauthorized access. This regulation led to the establishment of secure storage facilities, often located within the fortified walls of governmental buildings, complete with locks and guards to prevent tampering or theft. Moreover, the penalties for violations of these regulations were severe. Individuals found guilty of defacing or altering official scrolls could face harsh punishments, including fines or even exile. Such stringent measures underscored the importance placed on the sanctity of written records in Byzantine governance. Part 12: Supply Chain and Logistics. The supply chain and logistics of scroll production and storage were critical components of the Byzantine archiving system. The creation of scrolls necessitated a complex network of suppliers and craftsmen, each specializing in different aspects of the scroll-making process. Parchment, for instance, was primarily sourced from sheep and goat skins, which were processed by tanners skilled in the art of skin preparation. The procurement of high-quality parchment was essential, as it directly influenced the longevity and usability of the scrolls. Once parchment was obtained, it was often transported to scriptoria, dedicated writing rooms where scribes would copy texts and produce new scrolls. The movement of materials was governed by a series of logistical protocols to ensure that supplies were available when needed. This included the creation of inventories to track supplies of ink, quills, and other writing materials, as well as the establishment of relationships with merchants who could provide these goods in a timely manner. The logistics of scroll storage were equally intricate. Dedicated storage facilities, known as bibliotheki, were often constructed with specific architectural features designed to enhance storage conditions. For instance, many of these structures included thick stone walls to regulate temperature and humidity, as well as strategically placed windows to allow for natural light without exposing the scrolls to excessive heat or moisture. In addition to physical storage considerations, the movement of scrolls between different departments and regions also required meticulous planning. Official scrolls were often transported by designated couriers, who were trained not only in the handling of documents but also in the necessary precautions to protect them during transit. This included the use of specially designed cases or tubes to prevent damage from the elements or rough handling. Part 13: Record-Keeping Methods. The methods of record-keeping in the Byzantine Empire were diverse and evolved over time, reflecting the complexities of administration and the need for efficient information retrieval. The earliest forms of record-keeping relied heavily on manual entry into ledgers or scrolls, a labor-intensive process that required skilled scribes proficient in various scripts, including Greek, Latin, and Syriac. As the empire expanded, the volume of records increased exponentially, necessitating the development of more sophisticated record-keeping techniques. One notable innovation was the introduction of chancery registers, which served as official logs of all outgoing correspondence. These registers were maintained by specialized clerks who were responsible for ensuring that all entries were accurate and complete. In addition to registers, the Byzantine administration employed a system of noti, or shorthand, to facilitate quicker record keeping. This system allowed scribes to capture information more rapidly during meetings or hearings, later expanding upon these notes when drafting formal documents. The use of noti exemplified the empire's adaptability and commitment to improving administrative efficiency. Moreover, the advent of the codex during the later Byzantine period represented a significant shift in record-keeping practices. The codex, with its bound pages, allowed for easier organization and access to information compared to traditional scrolls. This transition not only enhanced the efficiency of record-keeping but also paved the way for the development of new forms of documentation, including legal texts and administrative manuals. The adoption of systematic indexing methods further refined the process of record retrieval. Many archives developed elaborate indexing systems, categorizing documents by subject matter, date, or the administrative office responsible for their creation. This practice facilitated quicker access to records and underscored the Byzantine emphasis on bureaucratic efficiency. In conclusion, the history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols is not merely a tale of mundane practices but rather a reflection of the empire's broader administrative philosophy. The regional variations, bureaucratic regulations, logistical complexities, and evolving record-keeping methods all contributed to a sophisticated system designed to manage an ever-growing volume of information. While the details may seem tedious, they illuminate the intricate tapestry of Byzantine governance and its enduring legacy in the realm of archival practices. The Monotonous History of Byzantine Imperial Scroll Storage and Archiving Protocols, Part 10. In the vast and intricately structured world of the Byzantine Empire, the protocols surrounding the storage and archiving of scrolls exhibit a remarkable complexity that reflects both regional variations and the evolution of these practices over different time periods. The Byzantine Empire, spanning from the late Roman period to the fall of Constantinople in 1453, was characterized by a mosaic of local customs and administrative practices that influenced how written materials were preserved, accessed, and utilized. Regional variations and comparisons. The Byzantine Empire was not a monolithic entity. Rather, it encompassed a diverse array of cultures, languages, and administrative practices. Regional variations in scroll storage and archiving protocols can be observed distinctly between the capital, Constantinople, and the provinces such as Anatolia, the Balkans, and Egypt. In Constantinople, the heart of imperial power, scrolls were often stored in the Great Library, which was a grand edifice housing not only imperial documents but also works of literature, philosophy, and science. The archiving protocols here were remarkably meticulous, involving a tiered system of categorization that permitted rapid retrieval of documents. In contrast, in the provinces, particularly in rural areas, the methods of storage were less formalized. Scrolls might be stored in wooden chests or clay jars, often susceptible to the ravages of time and environmental conditions. The bureaucratic structure in these regions was less centralized, leading to variations in how documents were recorded and preserved. For instance, While urban centers might utilize sophisticated indexing systems, rural administrations often relied on simpler methods, such as the use of wax tablets for temporary records, which were then transcribed onto scrolls at a later date. Evolution over different time periods. The evolution of scroll storage and archiving practices can be traced through several distinct periods in Byzantine history. In the early Byzantine period, circa 4th to 6th centuries, the emphasis was largely on the preservation of religious texts and imperial edicts. Scrolls were primarily crafted from papyrus and later parchment, with a focus on durability and legibility. The protocols of this period were rudimentary, often hinging on the personal preferences of local clerics or officials who would dictate the arrangement and care of the scrolls. As the empire transitioned into the Middle Byzantine period, circa 7th to 12th centuries, there was a marked improvement in the sophistication of scroll storage methods. The establishment of dedicated administrative offices, such as the logothetes, heralded a more organized approach to record keeping and archiving. Scrolls began to be categorized not merely by subject but also by their relevance to ongoing administrative processes. The introduction of inventory lists and protocols for the regular audits of archival collections became commonplace, ensuring that scrolls were not only preserved but also efficiently managed. The late Byzantine period, circa 13th to 15th centuries, saw further refinement of these practices, influenced by the empire's interactions with neighboring cultures and the increasing importance of trade and diplomacy. The rise of the merchant class and the proliferation of private libraries prompted a demand for more standardized archiving practices. Notably, the introduction of the codex format began to replace scrolls, given its advantages in portability and ease of use. This shift necessitated an overhaul of existing protocols, as archivists adapted to the new formats and their implications for storage and retrieval. Bureaucratic regulations and laws. The Byzantine bureaucracy was renowned for its complexity, and this was reflected in the regulations governing scroll storage and archiving. The Codex Justinianus, a pivotal legal text compiled during the reign of Emperor Justinian I, contains numerous references to the proper management of documents. A series of edicts mandated the establishment of formal records offices, archontica, where scrolls should be housed. Each office was required to maintain a detailed inventory of its holdings, which included not only the titles of the scrolls but also their physical condition and location within the storage facility. Moreover, the bureaucratic regulations stipulated the appointment of specific officials responsible for overseeing the archiving process. These individuals, often referred to as grammates, were tasked with ensuring compliance with archiving standards and conducting regular inspections of the scroll collections. The penalties for negligence in maintaining these records were severe, often resulting in the dismissal of the responsible official or, in extreme cases, banishment from the capital. Another notable aspect of Byzantine legal regulation concerning scroll storage was the recognition of the value of scrolls as property. Legal frameworks were established to protect the ownership of scrolls, especially in cases of inheritance or dispute. The process of documenting scroll ownership was formalized, often requiring witnesses and meticulous record-keeping to ensure the legitimacy of claims. Hashtag supply chain and logistics. The logistics of scroll storage and archiving in the Byzantine Empire also warrant attention, particularly in terms of the supply chain involved in the production and distribution of materials necessary for scroll creation. The primary materials used for scrolls, papyrus, parchment, and ink, were sourced from various regions within and outside the empire. Papyrus, favored for its lightweight and cost-effective nature, was predominantly produced in Egypt. The papyrus trade routes were vital, and the transport of this material to Constantinople and other major cities was a crucial aspect of the Byzantine economy. The production of parchment, made from animal skins, represented a more labor-intensive process. The finest parchments were often produced in regions known for their livestock, such as Anatolia and the Balkans. The logistics surrounding parchment production involved not only the raising and slaughtering of animals but also the skilled labor required to prepare the skins. This multifaceted supply chain necessitated careful oversight, as the quality of the materials directly impacted the durability and legibility of the scrolls. The ink used for writing was another critical component of scroll production. Byzantine scribes favored inks made from carbon black or iron gall, both of which required specific materials and techniques for preparation. The distribution of ink, therefore, was an important aspect of the archiving logistics, as it involved trading relationships with various artisans and suppliers. The availability of high-quality ink could significantly influence the archiving process, as the longevity of the written word depended on the ink's resistance to fading and deterioration. Hashtag record-keeping methods. The methods of record-keeping employed in Byzantine scroll storage and archiving were diverse and evolved over time, reflecting both technological advancements and administrative needs. In the early period, record-keeping was rudimentary, often relying on simple notations made on wax tablets or parchment slips. These records would later be transcribed onto scrolls, creating a backlog of documents that required careful management. As the empire advanced, more sophisticated methods of record-keeping emerged. The use of inventory lists became standard practice, with archivists maintaining comprehensive catalogs of scroll contents. These catalogs were often organized thematically or chronologically, depending on the nature of the documents. For example, administrative scrolls might be catalogued by year and type of decree, while religious texts could be organized by author or liturgical season. The introduction of the codex format, which allowed for easier navigation of texts, also influenced record-keeping methods. Codices could be indexed in a way that scrolls could not, enabling archivists to employ more complex referencing systems. This evolution required archivists to adapt their practices, leading to increased emphasis on cross-referencing and the establishment of comprehensive bibliographies. Moreover, the archiving community began to adopt standardized notations and abbreviations for easier documentation. Scribes developed a system of abbreviations that became widely accepted across the empire, facilitating more efficient record-keeping. This shift toward standardization reflected a broader trend in Byzantine bureaucracy, where uniformity and clarity in documentation were increasingly valued. In conclusion, The Byzantine protocols regarding scroll storage and archiving are a testament to the empire's intricate bureaucratic structure and its regional variations. The evolution of these practices over time, influenced by legal regulations, logistical considerations, and advancements in record-keeping methods, illustrates the Byzantine commitment to preserving its written heritage. While the minutiae of archiving protocols may seem tedious, they reveal a profound understanding of the importance of documentation in maintaining the empire's continuity and governance. As we delve deeper into the monotonous history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols, it becomes evident that even the most mundane aspects of history can provide invaluable insights into the complexities of an empire that has long since passed into the annals of time. The monotonous history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols is a subject that, while often overlooked, provides a fascinating yet tedious glimpse into the administrative complexities of the Byzantine Empire. This essay aims to delve deeper into the intricacies of scroll storage and archiving protocols, focusing on minor historical figures, specific case studies, comparative analyses with other regions, archaeological findings, and primary source quotations that, while plausible, are entirely invented. #minor historical figures and their roles. To comprehend the Byzantine approach to scroll storage and archiving, one must first acknowledge the contributions of several minor historical figures who played pivotal yet understated roles in these processes. Among them was Bardas Phokas, an obscure bureaucrat whose meticulous records in the late 9th century provide insight into the archiving practices of the time. Bardas was known for his attempts to standardize the categorization of imperial documents, which he described in his unpublished treatise, De Archivis et Tabulus. In this work, he painstakingly detailed the methods of scroll preservation, emphasizing the importance of maintaining a dry and stable environment to prevent deterioration. Another figure of note is Leontios of Trebizond, a lesser-known archivist active during the early 11th century. Leontios was particularly obsessed with the arrangement of scrolls, advocating for a color-coded system that would allow for quicker retrieval. His contemporaneous writings, though largely ignored, illustrate a deep understanding of the physical properties of papyrus and parchment. As he noted, the hues of the ink shall guide the hand to the wisdom contained within. #specific case studies with dates. Examining specific case studies provides a clearer picture of the Byzantine archiving protocols. One notable event occurred in 1081 AD, when Emperor Alexios I Komnenos implemented the Great Imperial Archive at the Blacherny Palace. This initiative was a response to the increasing bureaucratic demands of the empire, necessitating a more sophisticated method of storage. The archives consisted of a series of chambers dedicated to various types of documents, including imperial decrees, legal codes, and correspondence with foreign dignitaries. Each chamber was meticulously labeled, and the scrolls were stored in wooden boxes lined with cloth to prevent damage. A particularly revealing case study is the storage crisis of 1150 AD, during the reign of Manuel I Komnenos. An unexpected influx of scrolls due to extensive diplomatic endeavors with the West led to a temporary but significant storage crisis. The imperial archivists resorted to stacking scrolls horizontally in makeshift shelves, resulting in an unprecedented increase in scroll damage and loss. The imperial edict issued shortly thereafter, known as the Edictum de Custodia Scriptorum, mandated that all scrolls must be stored in vertical positions to maximize space and minimize deterioration. ### Comparative analysis with other regions. A comparative analysis with other regions during the same period reveals the Byzantine emphasis on scroll preservation as superior to that of their contemporaries. For example, in the Islamic Caliphate, while there was a flourishing of knowledge and literature, the methods of scroll storage were less formalized. The Caliph al-Ma'mun, in the early 9th century, established the Bayt al-Hikmah, House of Wisdom, but the scrolls were often stored in large, unregulated rooms where environmental conditions were not sufficiently monitored. In contrast, Byzantine archives were often located in well-ventilated, climate-controlled environments, as documented by the historian Anna Komnene, who noted in her Alexiad that the wisdom of the ancients is preserved not only in the scrolls but also in the very air that caresses them. This highlights a clear discrepancy in the treatment of archival materials, with the Byzantine approach being methodical and systematic. ### Archaeological findings and interpretations. Archaeological findings have further illuminated the Byzantine approach to scroll storage and archiving. Excavations at the Great Palace of Constantinople have unearthed remnants of storage facilities that reveal much about the protocols of the time. Among these findings are fragments of wooden shelves, meticulously crafted to accommodate the scrolls, along with tools that suggest a rigorous maintenance routine was in place. One particularly significant find was a series of terracotta storage jars inscribed with the term Sigma Upsilon Gamma Gamma Rho Alpha Phi, singgraphy, which translates to writing. These jars were believed to have been used for temporary storage of scrolls awaiting formal classification. The presence of these jars indicates that the Byzantine archivists employed a system of interim storage, allowing for flexibility in document management. ### Primary source quotations. To enrich this narrative, it is essential to include plausible yet invented quotations from primary sources that reflect the prevailing attitudes toward scroll storage. For instance, an inscription found in the library of the Blacherny Palace reads, "In the scrolls lies the essence of our governance. To neglect their care is to invite chaos upon the realm." This underscores the Byzantine belief that the preservation of documents was intrinsically linked to the stability of the empire. Another hypothetical quote from an archival manual attributed to Bardas Phocas states, "Let every scribe remember that the ink upon the parchment is but a fleeting memory, it is the care of the archivist that grants it eternal life." This epitomizes the meticulous nature of Byzantine archivists and their commitment to the preservation of knowledge. ### Conclusion. In conclusion, the Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols, while seemingly mundane, reveal a complex interplay of historical figures, systematic case studies, comparative methodologies, archaeological discoveries, and theoretical reflections on the significance of document preservation. Through a detailed examination of these aspects, one gains a greater appreciation for the meticulous nature of Byzantine bureaucratic practices. As we ponder the significance of scroll storage, it becomes evident that in the realm of knowledge management, the Byzantines were both pioneers and custodians of a legacy that would endure through the ages. The sprawling nature of their archives, the delicate care of their scrolls, and the unwavering dedication of their archivists serve as a testament to a civilization that, while perhaps not always thrilling, was undoubtedly profound in its commitment to preserving the written word. Thus, we arrive at the end of our exploration, hopefully inducing a state of drowsiness that reflects the true essence of the Byzantine bureaucratic spirit, tedious, methodical, and eternally vigilant in the pursuit of preserving knowledge. The monotonous history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols is a subject that, while often overlooked, provides a fascinating yet tedious glimpse into the administrative complexities of the Byzantine Empire. This essay aims to delve deeper into the intricacies of scroll storage and archiving protocols, focusing on minor historical figures, specific case studies, comparative analyses with other regions, archaeological findings, and primary source quotations that, while plain, highlight the importance of documentation in maintaining imperial authority. The Byzantine Empire, which flourished from approximately 330 AD, when Constantinople was established, until its fall in 1453, was not only a center of political power but also a hub of administrative sophistication. The archiving methods used during this period were not merely functional but were also emblematic of the empire's commitment to record-keeping as a means of governance. By the 6th century, under Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 AD, the empire had developed a more structured approach to documentation, resulting in the codification of law through the Corpus Juris Civilis. This monumental work required meticulous record-keeping, which influenced the protocols for scroll storage. The storage of scrolls was a highly organized affair, reflecting the Byzantine emphasis on order and accessibility. Scrolls were typically made from papyrus or parchment, with the latter being more durable and preferred for long-term storage. The dimensions of these scrolls varied, but a common size for legal documents ranged from 20 to 30 centimeters in width and could extend up to 10 meters in length when unrolled. The methods of storage employed included wooden boxes, known as scrinia, which were often lined with felt to protect the scrolls from dust and moisture. Archaeological excavations in sites such as Constantinople and Jerusalem have revealed remnants of these storage boxes, which were sometimes intricately decorated, indicating the value placed on the documents contained within. A noteworthy case study is that of the Magna Carta of Byzantium, a lesser-known but equally significant document penned in 1095. This charter, granted by Emperor Alexios I Komnenos, established protocols for the treatment of merchants and trade practices in the empire. The preservation of this document was critical, as it laid the foundation for commercial law in Byzantine territories. When this scroll was rediscovered in the late 19th century, it was found in remarkably good condition, highlighting the effectiveness of Byzantine archiving practices. The meticulous storage and careful maintenance of scrolls like this one ensured that they could be referenced centuries later, providing insights into Byzantine legal and economic frameworks. Moreover, the Byzantine approach to scroll storage can be contrasted with that of other regions, such as the Islamic Caliphates or the Carolingian Empire. While the Byzantines primarily used scrolls, the Islamic world began adopting codices, or bound books, around the 8th century, which allowed for easier access and reference. The Carolingian Empire, led by Charlemagne in the late 8th century, also emphasized record-keeping but focused on the preservation of religious texts, leading to the establishment of monastic libraries as safe havens for scrolls and manuscripts. Furthermore, an examination of primary sources reveals the bureaucratic mindset of the Byzantines. The historian Procopius, writing in the 6th century, commented on the extensive archives maintained by the state, noting the endless rolls of parchment that adorned the shelves of the imperial palace. This highlights not only the volume of documents but also the importance placed on maintaining historical records for administrative purposes. The role of the cartophylax, or archivist, became crucial in this context, as this official was responsible for maintaining these records, often working tirelessly to catalog and preserve the empire's written heritage. In conclusion, while the history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols may seem monotonous at first glance, it is rich with detail and significance. The careful methods of storage, the case studies of important documents, comparative analyses with other regions, and the historical context provided by primary sources all contribute to a deeper understanding of how the Byzantine Empire viewed the importance of documentation. This administrative diligence not only served the empire's immediate needs but also ensured that the legacy of Byzantine governance and culture would endure long after its fall. Through these lenses, we can appreciate the complexities and nuances of Byzantine archival practices as vital components of their enduring historical narrative. The monotonous history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols. The Byzantine Empire, known for its intricate political structures and rich cultural heritage, has often been overshadowed by its more flamboyant contemporaries. However, a less glamorous but equally vital aspect of its legacy lies in the meticulous protocols surrounding the storage and archiving of scrolls, which played a crucial role in the administration of this vast empire. This narrative will delve into the exhaustive details of minor historical figures involved in these processes, specific case studies that highlight the evolution of scroll storage techniques, and a comparative analysis with other regions, all while drawing upon plausible primary source quotations. ### Minor historical figures and their roles. Among the less celebrated figures in Byzantine history, we find individuals such as the imperial archivists, or cartophylax. These officials were responsible for the preservation and organization of the vast array of scrolls that documented everything from imperial decrees to religious texts. A notable cartophylax from the 10th century, John of Ephesus, is often cited as a key player in the development of archiving protocols during the reign of Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitos. His treatise on the proper care of scrolls, De Archivis, emphasized the importance of temperature control and humidity management, a surprisingly advanced understanding for the time. Another lesser-known figure was Patriarch Photios, who, in the 9th century, established a systematic approach to cataloging scrolls within the Church of Constantinople. His extensive library, known as the Photian Library, became a model for future archiving efforts. Photios's insistence on the categorization of scrolls by subject matter rather than size or age would later influence the archiving practices of the Renaissance. ### Specific case studies with dates. One notable case study occurred in 1045 AD, during the reign of Emperor Constantine IX Monomachos. A fire in the Great Palace of Constantinople threatened to destroy countless scrolls housed in the imperial archives. The swift response of the imperial archivists, who employed a series of fire breaks constructed of sand and brick, saved a significant number of these invaluable documents. Following this event, the Byzantine government instituted a series of stringent protocols for fire safety in scroll storage areas, which included the establishment of designated, fireproof rooms that were to be constructed with non-flammable materials. Another key event transpired in 1185 AD when a papal envoy visited Constantinople to assess the state of the Byzantine archives. The envoy, Cardinal Hugh of St. Cher, noted in his report that the scrolls of the Byzantine Empire are preserved with a diligence that rivals the most sacred of treasures, highlighting the meticulous nature of Byzantine archiving practices. This visit led to the introduction of the Byzantine system of scroll banks, where particularly valuable manuscripts were stored in fortified locations, ensuring their preservation against theft or decay. ### Comparative analysis with other regions. When comparing Byzantine scroll storage and archiving protocols with those of other regions, one cannot help but notice the distinct differences in approach. In the Islamic Golden Age, for instance, scholars like Al-Khwarizmi focused on the preservation of knowledge through the establishment of libraries rather than the meticulous storage of scrolls. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad became a hub for translations and the compilation of texts, promoting an open exchange of knowledge. In contrast, the Byzantines placed a stronger emphasis on the physical preservation of documents, often treating scrolls as sacred artifacts in their own right. The Tang dynasty in China also provides an interesting point of comparison. Chinese archivists developed a system of bamboo slips for record keeping, which were easier to store and manipulate than traditional scrolls. This led to a different set of archiving protocols based on the materiality of the records themselves. In contrast, Byzantine scrolls, often made from papyrus or parchment, required more meticulous handling and protection. The Byzantine practice of employing archivists to oversee the care of these delicate materials underscored a cultural reverence for the written word that was not as prevalent in other regions. Archaeological findings and interpretations. Archaeological excavations in Constantinople have yielded a wealth of information regarding Byzantine scroll storage practices. In the late 20th century, the discovery of a subterranean archive beneath the Hagia Sophia revealed a series of clay storage jars that were used to protect scrolls from moisture and pests. These jars, dated to the 12th century, were inscribed with labels indicating their contents, a practice that aligns with the protocols established by figures like Photios. Furthermore, the analysis of ancient scroll remains has provided insights into the materials and methods employed in Byzantine archiving. For instance, a study published in 1999 examined the degradation patterns of parchment scrolls found in the ruins of the Great Palace. Researchers noted that the scrolls had been treated with a form of oil, likely a mixture of olive oil and aromatic resins, to enhance their durability. This practice reflects the Byzantine understanding of material preservation, as well as their desire to imbue their scrolls with a sense of sanctity. ### Primary source quotations. To further illustrate the Byzantine approach to scroll storage, one might imagine a primary source from an archivist of the era, such as this fictitious account attributed to an unknown cartophylax in the 11th century. Verily, the scrolls of our empire are not mere writings on parchment, they are the very essence of our history, our laws, and our faith. It is my solemn duty to ensure that each scroll is not only stored but revered, for within their delicate fibers lies the wisdom of our forebears. Another plausible quotation from the aforementioned Cardinal Hugh of St. Cher could read, Upon my arrival in Constantinople, I was met with a sight most astonishing, scrolls, meticulously arranged, their titles gilded and their fibers intact. Such dedication to preservation is a testament to the Byzantine spirit, an enduring legacy for all generations to behold. Conclusion. In conclusion, the Byzantine Empire's history of scroll storage and archiving protocols, while seemingly mundane, reveals a complex tapestry of cultural reverence for knowledge and documentation. Through the roles of minor historical figures, specific case studies, comparative analyses with other regions, archaeological findings, and plausible primary source quotations, we see that the meticulous nature of Byzantine archiving was not merely a matter of practicality but a reflection of a society that valued the written word as a cornerstone of its identity. This exhaustive detail, while initially dry and perhaps tedious, underscores the significance of these practices in the broader context of history. The careful preservation of scrolls allowed the Byzantine Empire to maintain its administrative efficiency, cultural continuity, and intellectual legacy, ultimately shaping the course of European history long after the fall of Constantinople in 1453. Therefore, the Byzantine protocols for scroll storage and archiving stand as a testament to the empire's enduring commitment to safeguarding its heritage, one scroll at a time. The monotonous history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols is a sprawling topic filled with intricate details that can lull even the most fervent historian into a deep slumber. To explore this subject further, we will delve into the roles of minor historical figures who contributed to the development of these protocols, specific case studies that highlight their application, and a comparative analysis with the archiving systems of other regions, alongside archaeological findings and plausible primary source quotations that resonate with the dullness of this topic. To begin with, the Byzantine Empire, which spanned from approximately 330 AD to 1453 AD, had a complex administrative system that necessitated the careful storage and archiving of documents, primarily scrolls. The roles of minor historical figures in this process cannot be overstated, as they often served as the backbone of the bureaucratic machinery. For instance, one such figure was a lesser-known archivist named Michael of Paphlagonia, who served during the reign of Emperor Alexios I Komnenos, 1081 to 1118 AD. Michael was responsible for the organization of scrolls that contained legal decrees and edicts. His meticulous methodologies included the categorization of documents based on their relevance to specific administrative functions, a practice that would later be echoed in the systematic classifications employed by modern archivists. An exemplary case study to consider is the archiving efforts during the reign of Emperor Justinian I, 527 to 565 AD. Following his ambitious legal reforms, known as the Corpus Juris Civilis, Justinian recognized the imperative of maintaining a centralized repository for legal texts. The establishment of the Great Archive in Constantinople in 533 AD marked a significant advancement in the storage of scrolls, as it employed strict protocols for the preservation of these documents. The scrolls were stored in wooden cabinets lined with silk to protect them from moisture and pestilence, a concern that was ever present in the humid environment of the Byzantine capital. Justinian's efforts were not merely an administrative convenience, they represented an ideological commitment to the rule of law that shaped the legal landscape of the empire for centuries. The Great Archive served as a model for future archiving initiatives, influencing not only Byzantine practices but also those of neighboring regions. A notable aspect of Byzantine scroll storage was the use of specific materials and techniques that were often documented in the writings of contemporary scholars. For example, a minor historian, Theophilus of Edessa, wrote in his chronicle circa 780 AD, "The scrolls of our forebears shall not perish, for they are ensconced in chambers imbued with the essence of preservation." Although Theophilus's work is largely overlooked, his descriptions offer insight into the attitudes toward scroll preservation during this era. His emphasis on the essence of preservation reflects a broader cultural understanding of the importance of documentation and the physicality of scrolls as repositories of knowledge. In comparing Byzantine scroll storage protocols with those of other regions, we find that the Byzantine Empire had a relatively sophisticated system, particularly in contrast to the early medieval period in Western Europe, where document preservation was often inconsistent and largely dependent on monastic communities. While the Byzantine Empire thrived with centralized bureaucracy and archival systems, the Franks and Anglo-Saxons relied more on oral traditions and less formalized record-keeping practices until the Carolingian Renaissance, which began in the late 8th century. Charlemagne, for instance, established the Capitulary of Villais in 802 AD, which sought to standardize records but lacked the systematic storage methods found in Byzantine practices. Archaeological findings have also contributed to our understanding of Byzantine archiving methods. Excavations in the ruins of the Great Palace of Constantinople have uncovered remnants of scroll storage rooms, complete with remnants of wooden cabinets that appear to have been lined with textiles, likely meant to mitigate environmental damage. In 1935, an archaeological team uncovered a cache of scrolls in a damp cellar that had been sealed for centuries. The scrolls, although damaged, provided valuable insights into the methods of storage employed by bureaucrats, revealing that they often used wax-coated linen to protect the scrolls from moisture. An analysis of these findings led to the conclusion that Byzantine archivists were acutely aware of the threats posed by their environment, a realization that was echoed in the writings of contemporary figures such as the bureaucrat Leo the philosopher, who remarked, "Let not the scrolls lie naked to the elements, for they are the lifeblood of our empire's memory." The protocols surrounding scroll storage also included the use of seals, which were often affixed to the scrolls to denote authorship and authenticity. These seals, made from clay or wax, were an integral part of Byzantine document management and served as a mark of authority. A minor figure in this context was the seal engraver, who often worked in tandem with archivists to ensure that each scroll was properly authenticated. One such engraver, known only as Theodorus, is said to have produced seals for the imperial archives during the reign of Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitos, 913 to 959 AD. His work, although not celebrated in grand historical narratives, was crucial in maintaining the integrity of archival documents. In a letter purportedly written by Theodorus, he expressed his views on the importance of seals. Without the seal, the scroll is but a whisper in the wind, lacking the weight of authority that binds it to the realm of the living. In addition to the practical aspects of scroll storage, it is essential to consider the philosophical implications of archiving in Byzantine society. The preservation of knowledge through scrolls was viewed as a sacred duty, one that was intertwined with the cultural and religious identity of the empire. Theologians and scholars alike believed that maintaining accurate records was a form of stewardship over divine knowledge. This sentiment is echoed in a fictional but plausible quotation from a Byzantine theologian, who stated, "To archive is to honor the divine order, for in the scrolls lies the very fabric of our existence." This belief in the sanctity of documentation reinforced the meticulousness with which archivists approached their work. As we delve deeper into the minutiae of Byzantine scroll storage and archiving protocols, we uncover layers of complexity that speak to the empire's organizational prowess. The careful classification of scrolls, the physical materials used in their storage, and the philosophical underpinnings of their preservation paint a portrait of a society that valued knowledge and its transmission. The Byzantine approach to archival practices, while seemingly mundane, reveals an intricate web of relationships between bureaucrats, archivists, and the scrolls themselves, all of which contributed to the longevity of the empire's intellectual legacy. In summary, the Byzantine Imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols were the result of concerted efforts by various minor historical figures, the implementation of specific case studies, and a comparative analysis with other regions. Through archaeological findings and interpretations, we glean insights into the methods and philosophies that governed this essential aspect of Byzantine governance. While the details may seem tedious and dry, they are instrumental in understanding the broader implications of how societies manage and preserve their history, a topic that, while perhaps unexciting, is vital to the continuity of knowledge across generations. And so, dear listeners, we come to the end of our tranquil journey through the monotonous yet fascinating history of Byzantine imperial scroll storage and archiving protocols. As we have meandered through the ages, we have uncovered the meticulous methods employed by the Byzantine Empire to preserve their knowledge, culture, and history, each scroll lovingly crafted and carefully stored, a testament to the value placed on the written word and the wisdom of the past. We began by exploring the grand libraries that housed these precious scrolls, places of learning that reverberated with the whispers of scholars and scribes. We then ventured into the intricate systems of organization and preservation, learning how the Byzantines balanced the demands of their dynamic society with the need for stability in their archival practices. Each step of our journey revealed the deep respect the Byzantines had for their heritage, as they sought to ensure that future generations would have access to the thoughts and ideas that shaped their world. As we reflect on this rich tapestry of history, it is important to remember that every scroll, every protocol, was a part of a larger narrative, a narrative that speaks to our own desire to hold on to knowledge and the stories that define us. Just as the Byzantines carefully curated their archives, we too can find comfort in preserving our own memories and experiences. Thank you for joining me on this soothing exploration into the past. I hope you found solace in the gentle rhythm of history, each detail serving as a lullaby to your mind, easing you into a state of relaxation. If you wish to revisit our journey or let the soothing cadence of this narrative wash over you once more, feel free to replay this video at any time. As you settle in for the night, may your dreams be filled with the whispers of ancient scrolls, the wisdom of the ages, and the quiet assurance that history holds many answers, resting just a heartbeat away. Allow yourself to drift gently into sleep, knowing that tomorrow brings new opportunities for discovery and understanding. Wishing you a peaceful good night, dear listeners. May you find tranquility in the stillness of the night, and may the stories of the past guide you softly into your dreams.